In today's video, we have a variety of NHL news updates, including information on some more NHL roster cuts, some more NHL injury updates. We have some news out of Seattle and some new staff members have been hired. Plus, we also have some more updated NHL trade rumors as well. We'll get into all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news updates. We have a lot to cover here, so let's jump right in. First of all, I want to start with some notable NHL roster cuts made. Forward Troy Brouwer, who was in training camp with the Florida Panthers on a PTO, has been released. He's 35 years old, still optimistic that maybe he'll get an opportunity somewhere else, hoping that he showed enough through training camp and in preseason with the Panthers that maybe another NHL club will give him an opportunity. He doesn't seem quite ready to hang him up just yet. Still looking for another opportunity here, so we'll see, but if that opportunity is going to come, it will not be with the Florida Panthers for the coming season. Now, a couple of notable junior players who were cut and sent down to the minors and back to their junior team today as well. The Edmonton Oilers have cut defenseman Evan Bouchard and sent him down to Bakersfield, so he'll be starting the coming year at the American Hockey League level. Now, I know with some fans, I've seen a reaction on social media, not real pleased about it because he is one of the better puck movers on that blue line already, even at a young age, but it seems as though the Oilers and Ken Holland kind of want him to focus more on the defensive side of the game and kind of round things out a little bit before he makes the jump. I really don't see him being down in the AHL for too long. I'd say at the very least by mid-season he'll be up and having an impact here on the Oilers. He just has to wait for that right opportunity. We've seen many times a lot of top players go down, just get a small sample size of the AHL just to kind of refine their game a little bit and then come back up. But it's certainly looking pretty decent, I think, for Ethan Bear to make the roster out of training camp and start the year on the main roster. So we'll see, but that's the news for today out of Edmonton. And the Dallas Stars have sent their 2018 first-round selection, Ty Dellandrea, back for another year of junior in the Ontario Hockey League. He did go through training camp up until now, but he'll be going back to junior to complete one more season, which is not really a big surprise. Dellandrea, though, was a surprise pick, in my opinion, at the 2018 NHL draft. He was drafted a little bit higher than a lot of places had him ranked, but the Dallas Stars obviously saw something they've liked. They seem to be pretty happy with his progress so far, and he'll complete one more year of junior in the OHL. Either way, Ty Dellandrea will be turning pro next year and either play for the Stars or their American Hockey League affiliate. Now, sticking with some roster information here as well, it looks as though the Boston Bruins very well might be signing Alex Petrovic, who's been in training camp on a PTO. Now, of course, that's not been officially announced as of yet, but there is a lot of reports indicating that it looks as though the Bruins are leaning towards giving him a contract, but it's likely going to be one of those contracts where the AHL salary is significantly higher, or there might be a guaranteed amount. Usually they might say, like, for example, $700K at the NHL level, maybe $150K at the AHL level with, $200 or $250K or something guaranteed overall, or something to that effect. Hard to say how it's going to go, but likely going to be a two-way contract. Of course, that's not official yet, but that's how things are looking right now. And we can take another RFA off the list here today. Of course, we saw Matthew Tkachuk sign earlier today, but Carolina Hurricanes RFA, Saku Mendelainen, who doesn't really get a whole lot of attention because he's a lesser-known RFA, will not be returning to the Hurricanes. He has signed a one-year contract in the KHL with Jokerit, so I guess he will be one last one scratched off the list. So that does bring us officially down to 3 RFAs, including Mikko Rantanen of the Avalanche and Patrik Laine and Kyle Connor of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, there hasn't been a whole lot of updates to indicate that any of these deals are imminent at all. Pierre LeBrun did touch on that this morning on Leafs Lunch, kind of talking about what his latest words were being heard around those negotiations. It is believed that the Avalanche still want to lock up Rantanen on a long-term deal. They're really concerned about when his contract's going to expire. Obviously, they want to try to spread things out between himself and Landeskog and McKinnon and even Cale Makar. Depending on how all these contracts are done here, they kind of want to stagger them when they're going to be expired. It just helps them manage things a lot better, longer term, projecting the cap out many years out, etc. So that's one of their bigger concerns, but they would like to get him locked up to a 7 or 8 year contract, and right now it looks as though he's open to that as well, but they're just having a difficult time coming to terms on the amount, which, obviously we've heard reports that the Avalanche were offering somewhere around $8.5 million, and of course you got Mitch Marner, just shy of $11 million. Now we've seen some other deals come in between Braden Point and Matthew Tkachuk on shorter terms, a little bit more reasonable, so I guess we will see. There is been some reports that it's probably going to take around 9.5 to get it done. So we'll see if the Avalanche come up and if anything happens here. But once we saw Point sign, wasn't long after that we saw Tkachuk sign, and as all these other deals get done, there will be more pressure on the remaining ones because there's more comparables out there to use to get something done. So we'll see there. As far as the two Winnipeg players go, there's really not a whole lot of movement there as well, but LeBrun did mention the fact that he feels, in his opinion, that the Laine contract, if and when it does get done, was going to be a 2-year bridge deal, going to be a little bit different, kind of a prove-it type of contract for Laine to bounce back and really show what kind of player he can be. And there's still talks of Kyle Connor, looking for a long-term deal, but I guess his agent did deny reports that anything was close. So I guess we will see. There's really no additional words, but as most of these cases have gone, usually there's not a whole lot of news. Then all of a sudden we start seeing updates that things are getting close, and usually within a half a day or a few hours, things start progressing along, and then boom, we have a deal. So I guess we'll see. But as of right now, no further updates on the unsigned RFAs than that, and hopefully these guys can get something done here in the coming days before the season actually starts. Now we have a few significant NHL injuries to discuss here as well. The Columbus Blue Jackets are going to be without forward Brandon Dubinsky for an indefinite period of time. All they're saying right now, he's out with a wrist injury indefinitely, so it's not quite clear exactly how that's going to go. But generally, considering how close we are to the NHL season starting, I would think it's probably fair to say that he will not be in the lineup on opening night. Now, of course, Dubinsky's missed a significant period of time over the last few years, something the Blue Jackets don't really need at this point in time, considering where everything's at with their roster and all the players they've lost. They're going to be a very different team this year. To have one of their veterans out longer term to start the year certainly would be a big blow, but it doesn't mean he's going to be out for too significant period of time. We don't really have a ton of information on it yet, but definitely going to be out for at least a little while to start the year. And we have a couple of goaltenders injured as well, including Carey Price and Robin Lehner. In Price's case, it looks to be like a hand or wrist injury as well, and there's nothing too serious by the looks of it. They're probably going to hold him out just for precautionary reasons. And Robin Lehner apparently has some type of a hip issue. In neither case, we don't have any words to say that they're going to be out longer term or it's anything real serious or anything to be too concerned about. But they likely will miss a little bit more time in the preseason to make sure they're ready to go, if at all possible, come opening night of the NHL season. But certainly some injuries there to keep our eyes on as we inch closer to the season getting started. Expansion franchise in Seattle did announce a bunch of hires today, including 5 new pro scouts. A pro scout scouts pro players, where an amateur scout scouts junior players. So simple as that. But in this case, they've hired people like Dave Hunter and Cami Granato, Ulf Samuelsson, Stu Burns, as well as John Goodwin. These are all pretty known hockey people, of course. Cami Granato, nice to see more women getting involved at that level at the NHL as well. Of course, she's a very well-decorated female hockey player from the U.S. as well. Of course, she's married to TSN analyst Ray Ferrero, so certainly works well where they're based out of Vancouver. Certainly, Seattle's not all that far away, so certainly a nice gig for her. She did indicate she has had other opportunities to get back into hockey, but was looking for something that would work a little bit better, for their personal life. And obviously, being in Vancouver to Seattle's, a pretty easy commute compared to most places. So obviously, this will work well for her. And of course, many of the other people, of course, that were mentioned here are well-known hockey people as well with lots of experience. So a lot of good names there to join the Seattle franchise to get things underway, start scouting for their upcoming expansion draft here. Now, as I mentioned, we have a couple NHL trade rumors to discuss as well, including the Pittsburgh Penguins, which we've already kind of touched on here in the last few days, but Josh Yeo of The Athletic has touched on it further in a new article here. Part of this article was an interview with Jim Rutherford as well, talking about the fact that the goalie market is heating up, and he's basically made it known that a goaltender out of Pittsburgh will definitely be traded. Many believe it's going to be Tristan Jarry, but I guess there is a slim possibility it ends up being Casey DeSmith. But as I said, as of right now, Jarry would be the pick that I would select here that he would want to move, if at all possible. But it's been known that he's been trying to trade him for some time over the offseason, but there really hasn't been anything opened up where a deal could be reached that made sense for him or any of the other teams that he's been talking to. But right now, as we're approaching the end of training camp, teams have a better idea what their goaltending situation is moving forward. We've seen many goalies going through the waiver wire. We haven't had any claims here as of yet. Nobody's been claimed in any position so far, although that very well could change as teams get closer to having their final official rosters get ready for opening night. But right now, it looks as though that the Penguins, according to this article, are not only open to trading a goalie like Tristan Jarry, but they're also open to trading some other players, and that maybe Jim Rutherford might not be done tweaking his roster heading into the NHL season. Yeo mentions in this article that other players such as Brian Rust and Jack Johnson and Nick Bukestad could possibly all be included in a trade if the right deal were to come along. He's certainly not opposed to trading any of those players. We already seen him try to to trade Jack Johnson on one other occasion, but of course that deal never went through. And of course, Brian Rust and Nick Bukestad's names have been mentioned in other trade rumors throughout the offseason as well. So we'll see if Rutherford continues to tinker with his roster, or maybe he just does something as simple as moving a goaltender rather than risk losing him on waivers. Either way, I do expect the Penguins to be making some kind of move and be active here as we head into the final week before the NHL season gets underway. And we'll see if any of the players named in this article are actually shipped out and traded for other assets. Sportsnet's Chris Johnson as well has also made some comments regarding the Vancouver Canucks, indicating that he feels the odds are pretty high that they will trade forward Jake Virtanen. Now, of course, as we know, Jake Virtanen has been an up-and-down player over the past couple of years. Obviously, he's a bit of a polarizing figure in Vancouver. There certainly are some fans who really appreciate his game, and others feel he's basically turning out to be a draft bust. But I guess we will see. But he figures that the odds are really high that they're going to move him. Maybe not right away, but if things don't start off really strong for him, that perhaps he could be traded. Basically, he feels that Virtanen could be moved to another NHL team in exchange for another forward in a similar position, somebody who could use a change of scenery, just hasn't been panning out with their existing team. You know, that kind of brings up a couple of names to mind, like Sonny Milano in Columbus, who's also been mentioned, who we talked about a few days ago. The Blue Jackets are a little leery putting him on waivers because he's been a really strong AHL player and, you know, not the greatest so far at the NHL level, but he's still young and still developing. So if they put him through the waiver wire, he very well could be claimed. Maybe even Jesse Puljujarvi as well, who's been playing well over in Finland. Hard to say if they would hook up with the Oilers on a trade or not, but either way, they're just some examples of other players that are also former first-round picks that have not met expectations and have been struggling in their current roles with their existing teams, and maybe a swap of players to give them a change of scenery and a fresh start very well might be what the doctor ordered in those cases. Of course, so this is what Johnston's saying here as of today. We will see. He also did mention, though, it may not be anything that happens right away. The Canucks might hold off, go into the season, see how things start, and if things don't get off to a good start for him, maybe at that point pull the trigger. But Virtanen very well could be a player that ends up shipped out of town in order to get him a fresh start and bring back another asset that might be able to help the club in a different way. Would you move Jake Virtanen for another former first-round pick who might be struggling as well, like a Milano or Puljujarvi? Is that a type of deal that you would consider making if you're the Canucks? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section and we'll continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.